The final game of the weekend is an intriguing one because it is injury central. The Eagles in particular, although the Seahawks are banged up, as you were saying before we came into the studio, the Eagles, remarkable how many injuries they've had at this crucial stage of the season, and they still managed to get the job done. The last couple of weeks, they've performed phenomenally well in spite of adversity, and a lot of credit has to go, obviously, to the coaching staff and Doug Peterson in particular.
And the schedule.
And the schedule as well. Which, and being in the NFC East helped a hell of a lot. But they still, they had 2 big games they needed to get done, and they did. And Carson Wentz as well, who it seems to be emerging from a kind of indifferent season, getting that reputation back, that status back, that before he got injured a few years back, he was on course for MVP. He was the real deal. He is the franchise quarterback for the next 10 years. And that all changed, of course, with the injury, and they went on to win it with Foles. And he came back and, he's not the same player, and I'm worried about is he ever going to be the same player? Wentz seems to be the biggest winner of all. Win or lose against the Seahawks, his status has been regained, hasn't it?
Yeah, sort of. I'm not completely sold.
Not convinced.
I thought he was
getting it done with a second, third, fourth stringers.
Yeah, against not great opposition.
Okay, fair point.
I think their schedule, it was the Giants last week. I knew they played some
Cowboys the week before.
Yeah, I just think not convinced by those sides. And the Giants are 4-12, 5-11 team. I can't remember, 3-3. A bad losing team. Yeah. I've seen them play quite a lot. They're not great. Vince, I think he's good. I don't think he's an elite quarterback. The big breakthrough last week was after Miles Sanders went out with Boston Scott.
Boston Scott, yeah.
He was a 6th round pick from the Saints, and he was electric.
Yeah.
It was halfway through or a quarter into the game, everyone else was knackered, and it is week 17. But he looked brilliant. If he is that electric, then they have a chance of scoring 14 points.
just Boston Scott scoring.
Well, I think the Seahawks obviously they lost their Penny. They lost, what's his name, Carson
Penny, Procise as well. So all of them out. So
Marshawn Lynch is there, and they've got that rookie Homer who looked like he was better than Lynch. I thought.
Well, he got more carries. He was averaging a lot more per yards per carry. So and look, we hear a lot about running backs are devalued because there's so much strength in depth, and the way the game is these days, you can slot players in, and then you see it as Zeke Elliott or Saquon Barkley or a Dalvin Cook, and you think, okay, maybe we got that wrong. McCaffrey, maybe we're not so sure about. And then you see a situation like this where you're down to a player that nobody's heard of a week before, stepping in and gaining similar productivity. Not just the running back core that are banged up for the Seahawks, though. Dwayne Brown on the line, injured. Quandre Diggs, you'll be delighted to hear, inactive. Was inactive for the last couple of games, and there's no guarantee the Seahawks are saying that he's going to play on Sunday. Jadeveon Clowney as well didn't participate in practice on Wednesday, but Pete Carroll has said he will probably play. But they've got injury issues themselves, so not straightforward for them either. And particularly when you look at this team, which is, if not predicated on the run, then it is one of the teams in the NFL that weights more significance on it. Definitely in terms of number of carries and carries to pass ratio. It is going to change things up a little bit. Whether that is a significant differential or not remains to be seen. And I guess how well Homer and Marshawn Lynch can carry the load. But if they're not getting anything going on the ground, then it's going to force their hand to do and apply an offense they don't typically like to do.
Yeah, you could say they've got great receivers. DK Metcalf and Lockett are good receivers.
Yeah.
But for me, I think it's going to be close. I think the Seahawks would go out if they were playing any other team. They're lucky to get the Eagles here. And if this was at the Seahawks, I think they'd win it. It'd be clear winner. This is another question for me is it fair that the Eagles limping in at 9-7 are hosting and get a home advantage against the Seahawks? So I definitely think
the road
is a factor in this.
Having said that, right, so Seattle lose to San Francisco, so they drop down, and then get this road trip, as opposed to if they'd been the number 3 seed by winning the game. So I don't think they could have got home field advantage, but they could have got the number 3 spot. So they could have got home field in the wild card and facing the Vikings. Is it Vikings at home or Eagles on the road? Based on what you said earlier on about the Vikings, it's probably an easier matchup, right?
Yeah, I think it's the best matchup. I think the Seahawks will do it. I just think the Eagles have got too many injuries, just too many injuries. I think it will be a lower quality. This will be the lowest quality game possibly of all the wild cards. I think they're just two banged up sides, and it's frustrating really. No one wants to see a shadow of your team playing in the playoffs. It's a question whether do you have another week's break before the wild card. That's what I would possibly suggest as a chance to get more recovery in. So you've got sides that have just an extra chance. You've got squads playing in the wild card that are more like the regular season squads.
We mentioned before about the Bills' fairly easy schedule. Another really interesting point in the Bill Barnwell ESPN piece about all the wildcard teams, all the playoff teams full stop actually, is the strength of schedule for the Seahawks, particularly against defenses they've played, has been one of the hardest in the NFL. So the performance of Russell Wilson, as Barnwell's point, and the offense collectively against, let's see, what did he say? They played the 3rd-ranked Steelers, 4th-ranked Ravens, 2nd-ranked 49ers twice, the 5th-place Bucks, the 7th-place Vikings. They've had an incredibly difficult schedule in that respect, and Wilson's posted a passer rating of 102.6 in those games, 14 touchdowns, and 3 picks. So he is obviously an X factor, and I think is going to have enough in this game to get it done. How far can the Seahawks go in the playoffs, do you think?
This is as far as they go.
Irrespective of what I've just said.
Yeah,
Up against defense, they get it done.
Wilson got sacked, according to my stats, in the second half of the season, he got sacked 29 times, which is one of the most quarterbacks got sacked. So I think that really sort of hurt. And he was a MVP contender in the early part of the season, and he got shut down a bit more towards the end. I think he's brilliant. He's elusive. He's possibly one of the most elusive quarterbacks. I think the Eagles' defensive line is quite good, so that could pose a problem to see how effective this running game is against that line.
Yeah.
And does Russell Wilson have the time to find Lockett and find Metcalf?
Yeah.
I think that's a really fascinating battle.
Hope you enjoyed the Nat Coombs Show presented by Paddy Power Fantasy. There's plenty more where that came from. Just click subscribe to ESPN UK and you won't miss a trick.